Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories.
The sun was dipping behind the houses, and Mark's backyard smelled like burgers and burnt grass. Alex was leaning against his truck, wiping grease off his hands. I had a beer in my grip, sitting in the corner, just watching. The quiet was broken only by a distant lawnmower and the occasional bark from someone's dog. "You think the HOA will care if we move the chairs a bit closer?" Mark asked, flipping a burger. I laughed. "Only if they put cameras on our street." Alex snorted. "Or Brenda. She'd notice." Brenda. The name made my jaw tighten. She wasn't president, but she was on the board and had a knack for turning small things into disasters. She had a smile that cut. She could make you feel stupid and proud of it at the same time. A few weeks ago, she'd shown up at Mark's house over some nonsense about a mailbox flag. Not straight enough, apparently. She had pointed, smiled, and said, "You might want to fix that before it drops your property value." "Ridiculous," Alex muttered. "A flag leaning 2 degrees. Mark shook his head. "Curb appeal obsession. That's her thing." The rest of the board, Alan, the president, Monica, Todd, and Elaine, were like a cartoon of authority. Alan pretended fairness. Monica recited bylaws like a priest recites scripture. Todd liked punishing people. And Elaine mostly stayed quiet, letting the rest of them flex. We'd been visiting Mark often. Always gave the HOA a heads up. Always got approval. No problems. But Brenda had a way of twisting things. That evening, a truck roared into the driveway. Not Alex's. Another one. "Who the hell is that?" Alex muttered. I set my beer down and walked to the fence. Across the street, Vince's tow truck was backed into Mark's driveway. A bright orange sticker gleamed on Alex's truck. "What the—" Mark froze. Alex ran forward. "Wait!" "Nobody called." Vince waved. "Board called it. Everything's good." Mark's face turned pale. "Board?" "Brenda." Alex's teeth clenched. "Yeah, that woman." I felt my stomach tighten. We followed Vince at a safe distance. Mark yelled at the driver. "Hey, who authorized this?" "That truck's fine. We've been here a week with approval." Vince muttered something about orders and kept driving. When we got to the lot, the back bumper had a dent. Tail light cracked. A sticker read, "Vince Towing, Board Authorized." Alex hit the hood. "Look at this. This is insane." I rubbed my face. "Brenda went way overboard. She didn't leave a notice," Mark said. "Not one. That's illegal." Vince shrugged. "I just tow what I'm told." Todd would have loved this. He enjoyed handing out fines. But this wasn't Todd. This was Brenda taking things too far. Back at Mark's, I could see Brenda's campaign signs from the street. Big smile. Cap tilted. Words like, "for a perfect neighborhood." It made my stomach churn. Alex paced. "We need Alan. This is crazy. Damage. No notice. And she thinks she owns the place." Mark stared at the dent. "She's out of control. I've been watching her for months. This is the limit." I nodded. "We go to Alan. Fast. Don't let her spin it." We pulled into the HOA office. Brenda was there. She looked up. That smile hit like a punch. "Well," she said, "I see you noticed the rules." Alex shouted, "Rules? You broke every law for towing. My truck's damaged. This is insane." Brenda tilted her head. "Enforcement. And property values. You wouldn't want to hurt those, would you?" Alan cleared his throat. "Everyone calm down. Let's discuss this." I wanted to throw my beer at the wall. Brenda leaned back, eyes sharp. I followed the rules, the ones that matter. Monica opened her notebook. Section 4B says. I tuned it out. I didn't need rules. I needed a plan. Mark whispered, "Look at her billboard. Tomorrow, everyone's going to see it." I followed his gaze. There it was, her face, smiling down from the street corner. Cap crooked, slogan in bold. Perfect. I felt something shift. Something that wouldn't let this slide. Alex turned to me, eyes wide. "We can't let her get away with this." "Not after today." I didn't answer. I just stared at the billboard and thought about how far someone could push you before you snap. The office door clicked behind us. Brenda's laugh echoed, sharp, cold, and I knew the fight was only beginning. Outside, the street lamp flickered over the driveway. Alex's truck sat there, damaged, towed, and in the distance, Brenda's billboard smiled back. Something had to happen, and I was already planning it. The next morning, the truck sat in the driveway, dented and pouting like it knew it had been wrong. Alex was running his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. "I'm telling you, this isn't just annoying," he said. "It's illegal. They can't tow without notice. And my truck," he kicked the bumper. "Look at it." Mark leaned against the fence. "Brenda's losing it. She thinks she can do whatever she wants. I grabbed my keys. Let's talk to Vince first. See if he's just following orders or if he's part of this mess. We found Vince at a small lot behind a strip of shops. He looked up when we pulled in. Morning, I said. Why was Alex's truck towed yesterday? Vince shrugged. Board request. Brenda called it in. Did she leave notice? Alex asked. Notice? Vince fumbled. I just tow. That's my job. Mark groaned. That's illegal. She can't do that. Vince raised his hands. Hey, don't yell at me. I just drive the truck. Ask the board. I narrowed my eyes. We will. And that's exactly what we're about to do. Back at the HOA office, Alan was sitting at the desk like nothing had happened. Monica had a stack of papers. Todd was smirking, arms crossed. Elaine stayed in her chair, quietly scrolling on her phone. Alan, I said, we need to talk about Alex's truck. Towed yesterday. Damaged. No notice left. It's illegal. Brenda stood behind them, folding her arms. I followed the rules, she said, voice calm. It's just enforcement. Property values. You know, Alex slammed a hand on the table. Enforcement? You damaged my truck. You didn't leave a notice. This is ridiculous. Monica cleared her throat. According to Section 4B. I cut her off. Forget the section. What actually happened was illegal. Brenda leaned forward, smile sharp. I reported a violation. The board approved the tow. That's all. Where's the proof? Mark asked. You need a legal notice before towing. It's not opinion. It's law. Brenda waved a hand. The paperwork's fine. At least fine enough. No reason to get so dramatic. Todd chuckled. Dramatic is what happens when rules are enforced. You're lucky it's just a dent. Alex took a deep breath, furious. Lucky? You call it lucky that someone just wrecked my truck? Elaine finally spoke, quiet but firm. I didn't see notice on the truck either. That's true. Brenda's eyes flicked to Elaine. She didn't like being contradicted. Alan tried to mediate. Everyone calm down. Let's review the facts. Facts? We had the facts. Vince's logbook, the sticker on the truck, the dent, the cracked tail light. Nothing Brenda could spin easily. Let's call the lawyer, I said. See what options Alex has. Brenda raised a brow. Lawyer? Oh, this is going to cost everyone time and money. Are you sure you want to escalate? Brenda, Alex said, you escalated when you towed my truck. You started this. Don't pretend otherwise. Monica scribbled in her notebook. We could issue fines for interfering with enforcement. Fines? I laughed. But it wasn't funny. You can't fine someone for asking for their property back. Brenda's grin didn't falter. I enforce rules. If you resist, that's on you. Mark rubbed his temples. This is insane. Every neighbor's afraid of her. I caught Elaine looking at me, eyes narrowing. She was quiet, but she was watching Brenda. I could see the doubt, maybe even relief that someone else was pushing back. The conversation went in circles. Threats, rules, paperwork, everyone talking over each other. Alan banged his hand on the desk. Enough. Let's figure this out calmly. We walked out, frustrated. Alex muttering about repairs. Mark shaking his head. I stayed quiet, thinking. The truck, the tow, Brenda's smug face on that billboard. And then Mark pointed down the street. Look, Brenda's billboard, grinning like she owned the world. Cap tilted, slogan bold. The morning sun catching the top edge. Alex stopped. His face went pale. That thing, she's mocking us before the election even starts. I felt a low burn start in my chest. Something inside me snapped a little. We didn't notice at first, but someone was standing across the street. Shadowy, watching us. A faint laugh. Not Brenda, too far off. Someone else. I swallowed hard. Who the hell is that? Mark squinted. I don't know. Doesn't look familiar. Alex gripped the hood of his truck. Great. Now there's more eyes. More witnesses. I felt it in my gut. Brenda had pushed too far. Too many steps. Too much control. And someone was watching us now. Something was about to happen. And whatever it wasn't going to be small. The days after the truck incident felt heavy. Every time I drove past Mark's driveway, I saw the dented bumper and cracked tail light. Every time I passed Brenda's billboard, that smile stared back. Cap tilted, slogan bold, the sun glinting off it like she was daring anyone to do something. I didn't need daring. I was already plotting. Alex was furious, pacing his garage, counting repair bills and muttering about legal notices. Mark tried to calm him, but the tension was thick, simmering. It wasn't just the truck. It was the control. Brenda had a way of making rules feel like weapons. And worse, the rest of the board. Alan, Monica, Todd, Elaine. Let her push through whatever she wanted. Todd smirked whenever someone complained. Monica clung to her rulebook. Alan pretended to mediate, but he clearly didn't want to make waves. Elaine seemed like the only one who saw how far Brenda would go, but she never stepped in. I started keeping track. Every little thing Brenda had fined neighbors for. Mailbox flags, stone arrangements in front yards, holiday ribbons overhanging, tree branches in the wrong place. One family had been fined for having a crooked welcome mat. It was ridiculous, but to her, it was power. Luis, the outsider running against her for president, reached out. He had smelled weakness in her campaign. He wanted evidence, patterns. He didn't know about Alex's truck yet, but he would once we brought him in. Denise, the lawyer, said there were options. We could sue for damages, challenge the towing. But that wouldn't be enough. Brenda thrived on fear. She needed public humiliation, a reminder that she wasn't untouchable. I spent nights thinking, walking past the billboard, watching the street lamp cast shadows over it, wondering how far I could push. The truck had already proven she could hurt us. But what if the board itself became part of the punishment? Not fines, not hearings. Something visible, undeniable, something everyone would see. I scouted the area. The billboard was perfect. Isolated at night, bright in the day. Her face impossible to miss. I imagined standing there, spray can in hand, marking it in a way she couldn't ignore. Something crude enough to humiliate, simple enough to do without leaving a trace. I didn't need to be seen. I didn't need to be caught. I just needed to act. Luis called one evening. His voice was tense. I think we can take her down, he said. We just need proof of abuse. Show the neighborhood what she's doing. I've got more than proof, I said. I've got plans. I didn't explain. Not yet. He didn't need the details. He only needed to know that something was coming. Alex was quiet most nights, staring at the truck in the driveway. He hated how powerless it felt. Mark tried to cheer him up, but the air was always thick with tension. Every conversation returned to Brenda, to her smile on the billboard, to the dent in Alex's truck. And then, one night, the thought clicked. Not legal, not procedural, something immediate, something public, something that would stick. I walked past the billboard, careful not to be seen. It was taller than it looked from the street. Up close, her eyes seemed sharper. The slogan curved like it was mocking the neighborhood. I could feel the energy of it. The pride she carried. The way she thought she was untouchable. I thought of every petty fine she had ever given, every neighbor she had threatened, every dent, every complaint she had ever ignored or twisted. And then I smiled a little. This wasn't revenge for the truck alone. It was for everyone she had ever intimidated. The night I finally decided, I didn't take my phone. I didn't leave a trail. I parked a few blocks away. I walked in silence. The streets were quiet, houses dark. I could see the billboard in the distance, glowing like a challenge. I stopped a few feet away, out of view. Spray can in hand. My heart was steady, focused. This wasn't reckless. It was necessary. And then, from the shadows, I heard it. A soft sound. Footsteps. Someone else moving nearby. Not a car, not a voice. Just footsteps. I froze. The billboard stared back, her grin wide in the night. The footsteps paused, and I realized I wasn't alone. The night was darker than usual, clouds swallowing the moon. I parked a few blocks away, heart steady but sharp with anticipation. The streets were empty. No cars, no lights, just the occasional hum of a distant street lamp. I could see the billboard from a side street, Brenda's face looming over everything, that smug grin daring anyone to challenge it. I checked the spray can in my hand. Not too much, not too little, simple, precise. One mark, just enough to make her look ridiculous without drawing suspicion to me. My boots crunched on gravel as I edged closer, keeping low. I paused in the shadow of a tree. That grin, her eyes almost seemed alive. I felt a thrill, imagining the morning headlines, the gossip spreading like wildfire. She had taken Alex's truck, damaged it, flaunted her authority. Now it was my turn to respond. The can hissed as I pressed it, and the first stroke curved perfectly, pointing right at her mouth. Quick, clean, deliberate. I stepped back, crouched, then added the final touch. One last glance at the street. Everything looked right. Perfect. A noise behind me made me spin. Footsteps. Quick, cautious. I ducked behind a trash bin. The silhouette moved across the street, hood up, slow but deliberate. Not Brenda, not a neighbor I recognized. I waited, counting seconds that felt like minutes. The figure paused, looking around, then disappeared down an alley. My pulse slowed. Whoever it was hadn't seen me. Good. I walked away calmly, retracing my steps to the car. Every street lamp passed felt like a victory lap. Adrenaline thrummed, but I stayed steady. No phone. No evidence. Nothing could link this to me. By morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. Brenda's billboard was impossible to miss. Her grin now had a ridiculous mark drawn over it. The local group chats lit up. Messages flew between neighbors, some laughing, some outraged, some whispering about what kind of person could do such a thing. Brenda's voice carried through the morning. Sharp, angry, public. This is vandalism. An attack. Whoever did this will be held accountable. Todd stomped through the street. This isn't funny. Someone humiliated her. We need to find them. Monica clutched her rule book like it could save her. Alan tried to calm everyone, but his attempts were weak, unconvincing. Luis was already moving, smiling as he whispered to neighbors, pointing at the billboard. He knew the impact. The damage was beyond legal papers or hearings. The joke was public, undeniable. Brenda stormed into the board meeting that afternoon. She slammed her hand on the table. How did this happen? How could someone get to my billboard? Elaine's eyes flicked to me. Nervous. Todd was muttering about fines, possible suspensions, security cameras, threats. Monica was scribbling furiously. Alan looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Brenda's fury didn't just stop at words. She tried to use emergency powers, fines, threats of arrests. The neighborhood was split, some backing her, most laughing, and whispering about how ridiculous she looked. Alex and Mark were glued to every development. Alex still stewing over the truck. Mark shaking his head, muttering about her obsession with control. I stayed quiet, watched. The thrill didn't come from being seen. It came from knowing she couldn't prove a thing. She had no idea it was me. No witness, no evidence, nothing. By evening, the conversation shifted to the election. Brenda's popularity was tanking. Luis moved faster, rallying support, pointing to the incident as proof of her overreach and obsession. Brenda's attempts at damage control failed spectacularly. She issued statements, tried to frame Luis's supporters, demanded explanations, but every effort made her look worse. Elaine quietly supplied small facts to help push the narrative against Brenda, while Todd and Monica floundered in confusion. I could see it all unraveling. The board that had once been untouchable now flailing. Brenda's teeth were clenched, her fists tight. The neighborhood laughed, whispered, and watched as her power slipped. The sun dipped behind the houses again. Brenda stormed out of the board meeting, furious, shoving papers into her bag. Todd followed, still muttering about finding the culprit. Monica lingered, clutching her notebook. Alan sat back, exhausted. I walked home alone, calm, knowing none of this could touch me. No one could ever prove it was me. Not a neighbor, not the board, not the cops. I had left nothing, not a trace, and yet I felt the tension in the air, thick and buzzing. Brenda's fury would continue. Todd would keep searching. Monica would keep worrying. But it didn't matter. The neighborhood had already turned against her. The last thing I saw before I slipped into my garage was Brenda's billboard from a distance. Her face, still smiling, still angry, still unmissable. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the election confirmed what the night had already set in motion. Something had shifted forever. They came for paperwork first. Denise moved fast. She read the law like a weapon. She filed for damages for Alex. She asked the county to audit the HOA. She asked the judge to subpoena Vince's logs and Monica's printed notices. She did it plain and hard. Vince's lot smelled like old rubber and oil when the investigator walked in. Paperwork was thin. Entries were missing. Times didn't match. He stammered. Said he'd been pressured. Said he'd been told to handle it. He lost his license the week the report came back. The tow company paid fines and a stiff civil penalty. That was the first chip. Monica tried to hold on to her notebook like it would protect her. It didn't. The investigator traced the notice that had been left on Alex's truck. The print ID led back to a home printer. That printer was at Brenda's house. It was a small thing, a stupid thing, but it was concrete. Brenda's handwriting matched a line on the stub. She had tried to fake the trail. Brenda screamed. She blamed everyone. She blamed the printer, the paper, the town. She blamed bad luck. But the records didn't lie. Emails showed a late-night order to Vince. A bank transfer gave a hint. A neighbor's security camera, overlooked at first, caught a car leaving Brenda's driveway at odd hours. The pieces connected. Alan tried to steady the board. He failed. Todd tried to rally people behind Brenda. People laughed at him. Monica tried to apologize. Elaine stepped up. She signed an affidavit. She said she had never signed off on that tow. She said she had seen Brenda forge a signature once. Her words were short and flat. They cut deeper than shouting. Luis moved in like a shark. He had momentum and he used it. He held meetings in people's garages. He shouted facts. He showed receipts. He linked fines and threats, the petty punishments that had been piling like debt. People remembered the welcome mat fine. They remembered the ribbon ticket. They remembered being scared to hang laundry. He made it ugly and true. The city sent a mediator. They sent an outside board to take over the HOA. They put Brenda on leave from the board while a criminal probe spun up. She lost the election by a landslide the day it happened. The vote was ugly and loud. People cheered when the results flashed. Luis thanked them and promised real change. Brenda went to court. She argued, lied, and then she argued some more. The judge didn't look surprised when the forgeries came out. She had to pay. She had to face charges for illegal towing and falsifying documents. Vince lost his license. The HOA was forced to accept oversight for a while. New policies were written. A stranger from the city sat in on every meeting for months. Alex got his truck fixed. The repair bill came with interest and legal fees. The HOA paid a settlement. Mark's gate was repaired. He slept easier. For him, the math added up. Money came in. Bills got paid. He shook my hand and said thanks like he meant it. The board's old style of rule by fear ended up in boxes in the attic. Files were packed. Phones stopped ringing late at night. Monica moved away a few streets over. Todd tried to stay, but people avoided him like a mirror. Alan resigned quietly. Elaine helped rebuild trust. She spoke at the new meetings and did not look happy. She looked tired. Brenda's face on the billboard came down the week after the election. People gathered to watch the crew take it down. Some cheered. Some just watched. She stood at the curb as the sign was lowered. Her hair was limp. She looked like she had been peeled. Cameras snapped. People shouted. She tried to glare at the crowd. The glare looked small. The camera flashes made her blink. In the end, she paid. She paid for the truck. She paid fines. She paid legal fees. She lost her job with the community committee. She had to sell the ugly campaign signs she had plastered everywhere. Her name was in local papers for a month. She called it a smear. No one took her calls. They never proved the billboard mark came from me. There was no footage that tied me to the night. No witness stepped forward who could swear it was me. I had been careful. Denise never even knew my name. The board never suspected me. Brenda raged and sputtered and looked for a villain. She found a few harmless suspects and tried to drag them into court. They were cleared. The cops scratched their heads and moved on. I watched it all from Mark's patio. I watched Luis shake hands and make plans. I watched Alex get his check and sign the release. I watched Elaine speak at the first reform meeting, voice steady, eyes raw. People said this was a win. They called it justice. They cheered at the new rules. They felt lighter. For a while, the air smelled like relief. It didn't fix everything. The lawsuits left cracks. People picked sides and stayed quiet at block parties. Old grudges didn't vanish. New rules sat on the table, good on paper. You could see the change in faces, but not in bones. Trust is slow. It takes time to grow back. I won't say I slept soundly after. I didn't. I woke at odd times. I walked the street at night and checked the billboard standing empty on its frame. I thought about the look on Brenda's face at the courthouse. I thought about Alex's truck, all fixed now, solid and loud. I thought about how easy it had been to set a single mark and watch a whole house of cards fall. No one asked me to testify. No one could. No proof. No link. The stain on the billboard was gone, and so was she. The HOA was different now. The cost was high. People had to spend money and time to clean up the mess she left behind. I sat back. Mark passed a beer to me. Alex raised his glass in a quiet toast. I accepted the beer and nodded. The victory tasted flat. We had won. That wasn't the same as being healed. The neighborhood would mend in pieces. Some doors would never open the way they did. People would keep their heads down a little more. They would watch the sunset. The yard cooled. The truck sat in the drive, fixed, humming. The billboard frame stood empty against the sky. I let the night come. I kept my secret.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share.